Yeah, I'm John Berry. I'm 47 years young. I'm an environmental consultant, so I'm a chartered landscape architect, also an arborist, and I founded Tyler Grange 12 years ago because I left a large PLC business which had a really terrible corporate culture, and alongside 4 others we decided to start a business that we wanted to enjoy being part of, really. So we specialize in ecology, landscape architecture and arboriculture, and we work mainly with sort of commercial projects trying to make a difference, actually. So it is all about change and development and aiding that change, but trying to do the best we can to ensure that change is environmentally sound. So yeah, that's me. Love the outdoors, love people, love trying different things. Never really had a plan for life or work, and just carried on, see where I end up, and this is where I've got to, speaking to you.
Thank you. So there's I mean, yeah, it's just you sound very much like the rebel, don't you? It's like the rebel, pioneer, explorers, and that's what we're kind of looking for, to give other people an idea of how you got to your journey, sort of thing. So where did your kind of interest in what you do start?
I think probably as a child, just growing up amongst a family and friendship sort of surroundings that felt really safe to be interested in stuff, to experience stuff. So it wasn't sitting in front of a television all the time. It was outdoors, creating things, making things, learning, having teachers that are incredibly passionate. I had a geography teacher, Mr. Clayton, who influenced me in my interest in the environment because he lived it. He was the sort of teacher who'd get you in the school bus all together as a class, probably without parent consent, drive you down the road to look at geology in action, or explain how a river valley had formed over thousands of years. And I think that passion it definitely rubs off on you. But I think even as a child, you start to witness that going wrong, and you start to witness, even in your own friendship circles, some people respecting it and some people abusing it. So I think that's definitely where the appreciation for the outdoors and people came from. But I think I always had that unease that why do some people respect it and others don't? And what's the gain that other people have that don't respect it? And I guess that probably comes down to, more often than not, greed or desperation, probably. So, but yeah, I think it was born out of childhood, and I don't think you ever really lose that inner child and appreciation for stuff around you if you're that sort of person. So I'm still as fascinated on the walks we've been on together. There's always something to notice that it's so easy to walk past, but if you stop and look around you still notice stuff and still learn. So yeah, there's
I call it this hard focus and soft focus, and we're very kind of maps of the world are getting smaller and smaller, especially with phones and laptops and screens and stuff. But I've noticed more since I've been out. When you're outdoors, your awareness expands, doesn't it? I call it soft focus, but you just notice more, don't you? Yeah,
you do. Yeah, and I think you realize how small you are as well. So I think we've all become very self-aware. I think we're very introspective rather than outrospective now. So when you go outdoors, you do notice more. You think, actually, I'm a really small part in this, and there's so much more complexity that I think is actually quite grounding to step out and think, it's not really about me, is it? It's there's so much more happening, but easy to forget for a lot of people.
So you and your merry band of 3 others, was it, got together?
Yeah, that's right.
3 of the rebels, mavericks, misfits.
He's probably misfits, yeah.
And so what did you do? Did you just was it over a cup of coffee, lunch break, or?
Yeah, we literally sat around somebody's coffee table and said, what do you want to do? We left, say, a big PLC, and pretty much after a short discussion, it was we want to, whatever we do, we want to enjoy it, and we knew we want to be very values driven. We're all quite values based people, as much as we weren't turning up to make a profit, which is what we were expected to do in a PLC. We wanted to turn up fundamentally and enjoy it and make a difference, and also be a little bit disruptive in our market. It's easy for every consultant to do exactly the same, and that's what's expected of you. And we sat down and thought, should we just, let's be really clear, let's start a business that we say we're going to enjoy. Yes, we've got to make money to employ people and pay our bills, but it was going to be more than that. And so from the outset, we said, well, let's put something in place that makes it clear to us and everyone that joins us that there's an expectation that you'll turn up, but that means more than doing your job. It means, you're going to give something back. And so from the outset, we said we'd all spend at least one day a month doing voluntary or community-based work, which took us away from our day-to-day job. And actually that got us really involved in the community. And actually that created work opportunities and other social opportunities. So quite quickly we began to see the impact not working a full week had, actually, and actually doing something outside your day-to-day job. And it made me appreciate that it could make a big difference. And we were only 4 people at that stage. So as we grew, or encouraging others to do that in other businesses, I thought this could be quite a powerful thing. And I think it's proven that over time. But yeah, being values driven and actually recruiting on character and not necessarily sort of technical ability was our first big shift, and saying that let's interview people based on 5 photographs and ask them to talk about themselves, which I thought was brilliant, because it was always otherwise sit down, put down your technical CV, say how brilliant you are, get the job. But you never delved into someone's personality, their sort of interests, and actually that's the most important thing. So that was a big shift for us from the outset, which helped.
So you get people to come along with 5 photographs and say, right, chat about yourself and talk us through these photographs.
Yeah, and I think that was where I learned, and I've always been fascinated by the importance of storytelling, because an interview turned into a short story of someone's life. So and you'd learn so much about that person in a half an hour interview, and they'd leave the room and you'd be like, wow, what a story. Or actually there'd be people that couldn't tell a story, and then you'd be kind of skeptical of, well, if you can't tell a story, maybe you might be technically brilliant, but are you interested in what you do or the world around you? So that was quite a big thing for us, I think, and it made some people uneasy, particularly people that come from a very corporate world. I think that shift is actually quite scary. But
I've had the same done to me, actually. I remember sitting down, and the guy was a person-centered counselor, and he did a lot of executive coaching, and that was the first thing. Tell me about your life. When from? The last couple of years? No, from zero. Start from the beginning. Oh gosh, yeah, that it's quite unnerving, isn't it, to start with, but interesting.
Yeah, I've been asked to do it recently by somebody else, and it's it's quite interesting to reflect, isn't it, on your own life and where it's led you. But when somebody asks it out of the blue, it's quite a difficult thing.
It puts you on the spot. So what kind of obviously you're kind of booking the trends somewhat. So when you were starting off, and probably still get this, what the resistance do you kind of meet, and how do you overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's that thing again that's born from childhood. Sometimes it's that statement of you can't do that, or you can't do it that way. And actually, I think it became quite exciting to challenge that and just ignore those voices. yes, as a professional and as a professional consultancy, we've got code of conducts and things like that, but they're all sort of ethical based conducts. And as long as you work to those, it doesn't mean you can't still disrupt and do things differently as a business. So I think what I did was listen and talk to as many people as I could in the first few years of the business. And we still do that. We spend our time with a lot of other people that have opinions on things, and that sort of validates your approach or challenges your approach. So I think, I think it's really important. One thing we've said to our team always is that, seek out and give feedback on everything. So keep asking and keep learning. And you might not like the response, or sometimes it might be an encouraging response, but I think if you, even ourselves doing things differently, if we didn't listen to people and accept that sometimes we've got it wrong, sometimes we could do it better, I think you've just got to accept that there's a voice out there, or voices out there, and they all have a slightly different approach. The one thing I think we always said is that we would get loads of stuff wrong, and we're always really clear to the team. And anyone asks me about the business, I always say we've probably got a lot more wrong than we got right. But if we hadn't have made those mistakes, we wouldn't be where we are now. And I think that's the same in terms of the team's approach to things. So starting as a graduate in a business can be really scary unless you're made to feel safe in making mistakes. I think it's like if you expect to get everything right all the time, you're gonna be stressed. But actually, if you learn from mistakes and then shift, I think it's going to feel like a safe environment to just get on. And I think other businesses and some of our competitors probably struggled with that, and struggled with the fact we're doing things slightly differently, because it also puts pressure on them to change.
Yeah.
Which
I think that's the idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. It comes across, one of the concepts I talk about is the opposite of command and control is creative collaboration. You might need command and control when things go wrong and you need a quick response, client has a problem, whatever, but the majority of the time it's this creative collaboration you're after, isn't it? Because that kind of leadership is tapping into the collective intelligence of a group of people, which
is what we've moved away from. And we call the team a tribe, which we've had some criticism for, because there are negative connotations of the word tribe, because I think it's been, tribal culture has been destroyed across the globe. So we always say to people, before there was self, there was tribe. So it was all about human communities. They were formed by primal bonds, weren't they, of kinship, really, and things like that. So that's why we liked the word tribe for a team, because it was all about that sort of togetherness and the power of doing things together as a group of people. To us seemed just obvious. It's why have we moved away from that? And we also became quite, there was a hierarchy within our business, but we've always say we're fairly flat and fairly transparent, because if a graduate with no experience walks into the business, has got a brilliant idea, then it's a brilliant idea. It doesn't matter if he's got a week's experience or 20 years experience. I like that sort of sense of community, and I think it's really important to get back to that. And like you say, you need some command and control when something goes wrong, or people need that reassurance or confidence. But the rest of the time, I think a good business can run itself collectively, and actually would be more dynamic and more creative if it's run that way. But we're not taught that, are we? People come through business school and university and school to be taught that there's going to be a hierarchy, and there's going to be, you've got to achieve and strive for this. And again, it's become the accepted norm, and I think we need to challenge that.
So you have this your tribe, and with you've also gone to do the 4-day week. What was the motivation behind that?
Yeah, I think we've been thinking about it for about maybe 4 years. Again, the main driver was sort of people and well-being, because we could see the current culture in our industry was for longer and longer hours. There was not an ability to be off because technology had changed to the extent where you could work 24 hours a day, emails, phones, small computers in your hand now,
Yeah.
client interactions all through the night, as well as our team that already do nighttime surveys for bats. And you could see people burning out, actually, and even ourselves as owners of the business were just like, this is just never ending. There's a constant stream of noise, communication. And I think we thought, if this carries on, people will just either leave the business, burn out, have ill health. And we thought, this is really bad. It's from an industry that's busy and people are thriving. Very quickly, this could deteriorate. And you could see people choosing not to come into the profession because they were fearful of entering a jobs market where they could see people burning out. So we thought, this is, something needs to be done. So we'd already start to build in well-being into our business through having an in-house psychologist, and we were doing a lot of sessions on health and well-being with the team. But we thought, the logical thing to go one step further was to see if we could offer some reduced hours. And at the same time, we noticed the 4-day week global campaign, which is supported by a think tank and several universities. We thought they were running a 6-month trial, and we thought, there's a bit more support there, there's a bit more research behind it. So we thought, let's go for it. And we started it 6 months before we thought we were going to start. And again, a bit like we always do, we just said, well, let's give it a go, see what happens. And we had prepared. We'd done it. We'd done a lot to our internal systems to make them easier to use. We'd really taken the team with us and done loads of communication, because if we'd have just announced it, I think there would have been total fear. There would have been excitement, but then I think fear, because busy people being told they've got to be as busy, but within 4 days, I think would have panicked. So we explained that it was, 100% income for 80% of the hours, 100% productivity, but it didn't mean crushing your workload into 4 days. It meant just working for 4 days at a manageable level, and as a business you could still sustain it. So that the drive was to look after the team really and ourselves, and that, say, we started it and we've finished the trial and just announced that we're going to continue it permanently. So, and the figures are pretty shocking. It was we've increased our productivity by 21%. So it shows that a 4-day week rather than a 5 can work. But when you looked at the data for Fridays, for most people and most businesses, not a lot gets done. There's people spending 4 hours just kind of tidying up their week, and you start to think, well, maybe the human brain needs that. It needs that. It needs to sort of decompress on a Friday. So yeah, but more importantly for us, I guess, is that we created our own app. So we worked with an app developer to create an app which tracked fatigue levels in the team and happiness levels, which they do a reaction test and answer a series of questions every day. And that's shown that people are about 18% less tired, and there's been a jump up in happiness by about 10%. So again, that data is useful. 70% reduction in absenteeism through ill health. So anyone that says to us, well, how do you afford to do that as a business? It's like, well, not having people in a business because of ill health costs the economy a lot of money. So to have ended that and reduced that, and to increase happiness and attracted more people to our business is is great.
I think Anglia University did a study on happiness and its benefits, and they said something like happier people are usually are around 10% more productive, which is
Yeah,
ties in with what
yeah,
you've just said there, haven't it?
yeah, definitely. But I think we did have to be clear that it was a non-working day. So we've taken Fridays as an extra non-working day. So there's 47 of those a year. The team get paid, and we were very clear. And actually, we made everybody sort of sign a commitment that
Right.
it's not just holiday. We said you've got to use some of that time for the good of the all, really, which I think was fair. So we set out a series of commitments, and those included things like always provide feedback, get with the processes at Tyler Grange, so make sure you use our systems and learn how to use some of the things we've put in place to make processes quicker. Giving back to the community, we said, is that it has to be done, it has to be documented. You can't just
So this
say
is when you go out and do things within the community for charity and that kind of thing, is it?
yeah, exactly. And we said, no matter how small it is, that's you need to do it. You need to talk about it. Unless you do that charitable work or that volunteering and it's documented, it won't have that ripple effect. So, and use that time to improve yourself. We said about coaching, training, even collaborating with other businesses on that non-working day. And then also that sort of our B-Corp credentials. It's like, do what you can to protect the planet and educate people about that on that non-working day. So, and kindness is one of the other ones. It's like we've said, be kind to people, spread that message. And if the team we only need our 80 strong team to spend a few of those Fridays, and you can have 400 or 500 hours a year easily of positivity feeding out into the communities around them. So
proper ripple effect. And so that's so your approach to leadership is more, to lead with more compassion and kindness, then, is it?
Yeah, I've always wanted to use kindness as this sort of currency for good, really. I think it's a way of life. And you can definitely use kindness, storytelling to bring people and nature closer together. There's been a big disconnect between people and the environment around them. So, but, I think we've become increasingly dominated by negative media and instant media. And I think we've got to use kindness to redress that balance that we see all the time of there isn't a solution, this is really bad. It's like, there's loads and loads of good stuff happening all the time. And I think changing a simple moment or somebody's life through an act of kindness can actually be really powerful. And I think, most people probably can start with just looking at themselves and being a bit more self-compassionate, understand your own state and your own mind, and then share that with others. And I think if you do that in an honest and caring way, then you don't miss an opportunity to be kind to someone. I think it starts to changing, and kindness can also be, doesn't mean it has to be positive. Actually telling someone the brutal truth, which may feel unkind, is actually a really kind thing to do. I mean, I've had it in my life where I've had a sense of I'm not doing something well or I'm underachieving, but no one's been kind enough to say that's not really your forte. It's like, you're never going to be good at pottery. You might get better at it, but you're never going to be a world-class potter. And it's like, it's really kind for someone to say to you, enjoy that as a hobby, but you don't have to perfect it. And it's like, when someone gives you that sort of feedback, it's like, that's great, actually. Yeah, I can just enjoy this. I don't have to be brilliant. But I think I've experienced kindness in the simplest form of just a stranger in a moment of like anxiety or panic, and that reassurance you can get in a split second can just make you think, yeah, actually there's some decent people in the world, and that interaction with humans, that can really sort of turn a day around, can't it? Which I think people forget.
I think, as you say, there's so much going on that's just below the surface, and I'm always I think it's Bruce Lipton, who's a biologist, and he talks about imaginal cells in the butterfly and how, you know, you get 10% of these imaginal cells in a caterpillar all doing something different, and then it just transforms a whole organism. That's when the, you know, transformation kicks off. And McKinsey did some study as well recently, and they've said that if you get about 10%, I think they said 7% or something, you know, of an organization wanting to do things differently, then it gets to this tipping point, which, you know, in nature is in the environment, the tipping points are a big thing, aren't they? But it just, you know, cascades around.
It's true. Actually, I read a book by I think it was Rutger Bregman was the author, I think, and it's called Humankind, and it's an eye-opener because it's based on the sort of radical idea that most people are decent, and that actually if you start to spread that kindness, like we've already said, you do get this ripple effect. But I think when I read that, the one part of the book that really struck me was it said that a better world doesn't start with me, your individual wealth and your achievements. It should start with us as a global community. And I think so many people have gone back to what's good for me, what have I achieved, what can I do next?
Well, the systems that we're operating are forcing people to do that, aren't they? Because capitalism is about, it's quite egocentric. It's about, it's competition, and if you go back, and that's the thing, isn't it? I heard Ray Dalio talk about economics and, you know, changing world orders and stuff like that, and he said if you go back 2,000 years, and he was just using that time scale, but from a geological, environmental, you know, Earth perspective, that's you can hardly measure it, can you? But if you go back further, more and more work is coming out from hunter-gatherer tribes that they're very egalitarian. In fact, the San tribes people actually, you know, use satire to keep people from becoming too big for the boots. You know, the hunter that comes back with a zebra said, "Well, have you brought that guinea pig back?" You know, but that they understand that it actually is beneficial to the tribe if they are more kind and compassionate and caring for each other and support each other. We've collaborated our way to the top, haven't we? So if that's the right word.
And I guess people are fearful of, I mean, sometimes I guess people fear that kindness can make you more vulnerable to people abusing your sort of kindness. So that is a fear of people. I know there are lots of books written on it, that you can also be trying to do good in the world and actually you either making no difference or even causing harm. So I've even found out the hard way through our volunteering that volunteer for the wrong charities, and it actually, well, some small charities have actually had to turn around and say, we love you volunteering for us, but it actually gives us more stress because we've had to write policies for you to come in and see us. It costs us because we have to fund this. And you suddenly realize you trying to do good has actually created another area of stress, and you realize maybe we've got to shift that. And then
so the ecology check comes in there, doesn't it?
It does. And I've had the same the other end of the scale. I've worked for big charities and raised a lot of money for them and felt that it was insignificant because they at the end of the day, they were a huge machine. They didn't really care that I'd, you know, run the London Marathon and raised a lot of money. And I felt sort of wounded after, because like this really didn't matter. So I think I've learned from that, hopefully told stories about that to people and given them a different choice of when volunteering or doing work, think about its impact. And
so
I've always thought,
go on.
I think volunteering now has almost taught me that you just got to treat it. You've got to almost learn as much as you can when you volunteer, and then start to use those skills every day, because that'll have the bigger impact rather than just turning up and helping. It's like, I've done things for charities and then come home and thought, oh God, yeah, I can use that in this way at home and I can use that somewhere else. And I think that has a bigger impact. But Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess it's that ability to make mistakes again, isn't it?
well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's sense making, decision making, back to sense making, evaluating,
Mm.
and it's a decision making it's decisioning, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
constant process. It's not, which kind of goes away from, you know, your more command and control thing, which is, well, I've made a decision, therefore that must be right, and that's
yeah.
the problem. So, I mean, we've talked before about the ecology check. How's the ecology check in decision making changed any of your
Yeah, it
your
definitely has.
approach, maybe?
It brings in another dimension. It makes you, to me, it's that sort of, you step back again. In previously, you don't build in that ecology check. You don't step back and look at the wider community or the wider impact. Then you fail. You failed in your decision making, really, because it might be the right decision for you at that time, but it might not be the right decision for society. And I think the more people that build in that ecology check, the better. And you know, I guess being an environmental consultant, we look at the ecology check in another way as well, which is
Yeah.
from a pure ecological perspective. But it's kind of similar. I think it's, you speak to most people from school age up to retirement age, and they all accept they don't understand the complexities and interactions of living creatures on the planet, but they're all very aware that we've destroyed and mostly irreplaceable habitats, and we've totally disregarded the things that keep us alive and the things that make us happy. And it's like, surely we wouldn't have got to this point now if we just stepped back throughout history and taken that ecology check on a lot of decision making. We just wouldn't be in the same situation as we are now. So I think, yeah, and through your help, we've done it in our business in some of the areas where you wouldn't have previously done that ecology check. So our finance team might step back and think, what does this mean if we use this financial model, or if we use this banking corporation, what does it mean? It's like people start to ask themselves those questions all the time, and that definitely influences and changes your business. And
Yeah.
then you'll have a conversation with someone else and they'll think about it and it'll change their business. And so I think it's not an excuse when you hear some people say, oh, well, I'm just a small part of this. If I change, it's not going to make a difference. We're still going to have to do it this way. And I think that ecology check slowly starts to show that isn't the case, isn't it?
Yeah. Good point. That the fact, because we often feel, don't we, that we're not making a difference, but if we realise just how independent we are, and I was speaking to a lady, Kathy Allen, Dr. Kathy Allen over in America, and she, as I said, there are so many of us doing lots of little things,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, isn't it? It's that build up. We're not going to see it in the mainstream media because, well, it's totally against what their idea is anyway. And yeah, so all these little things, eventually we should be able to get to a tipping point, hopefully.
Yeah, and there's a really good the biggest example that I was thinking is I've been to a talk and read the book by Dave Goulson, I think it is. He's wrote a book called Sting in the Tail about the impact on bumblebees globally and what that means. And that sort of concludes that if everybody learned how to save a single bee today, and change their environment or their own home to save a single bee, it is clear messages like it'll save the world. It's like, it's simple as that. You only have to do a very small thing each and it'll save the planet.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the sort of wake up of like, yeah, it doesn't even have to be a big thing, does it? It's like lots of people doing a small change will change the way the world functions. So it gives you a bit of hope.
You've recently gone through the B-Corp process. How was that? And what would you advise other people who are thinking about it? What advice would you give them?
I'd say take it really seriously. It's not a box ticking, policy writing, accreditation. You've got to live the standards to be able to achieve the B-Corp score. So it took us over 12 months of hard work and commitment to change. What I do like about it is that the score sort of changes. So it's a starting score and it evolves. And there are businesses losing B Corporation status. Most recently, I think Brewdog, the brewers, have lost their status. So that can have a negative connotation impact on the business potentially. So there's a need and a desire to keep improving, which I like. There is some criticism. It's you pay a fee, you have to be accredited, and actually there's some larger PLCs and business that have been given B Corp status that people have been a bit critical of, which I understand. I think I came of it as basically liking it because it was a collective with a common goal, so that most of the smaller businesses that are certified want to try and work in a different way, and they're using business as a force for good, really. And it's basically they're saying we want to benefit people, communities, and planet. And I think if that's strict and it's properly monitored, and you start to see the positive outcomes of that, then I think it's good for business. I think that's always the thing that goes wrong with any system. It's that you've actually got to monitor it, and there's got to be a consequence of it not working. So if businesses aren't achieving or making change, then I think you've got to call it out, which I think is probably where B Corp will go next. I know they're changing their scoring system and their sort of entry standards. So, and I think there's got to be much more evidence of people getting involved. So as soon as you're certified, everybody in our team gets an invite to what's called the Beehive, where you create a profile and you have to start interacting and trying to make change. And so again, we've said to the team, if you're not on there and you haven't started to interact, then is Tyler Grange right for you? Do you care? And I think it's having the bravery to sort of call that out and say, unless you're living this and you've thought about how you're going to live at home and what products, what supply chain are you going to use as an individual, unless that is important to you, then maybe we're not the place to work. And I think that's the only way it'll have to go. Otherwise, it just becomes another badge that people can stick on, use it for marketing, and it doesn't mean anything. So, but it's hard work, definitely hard work.
Very good. Well, if you were, if you were giving someone some advice about how to become a rebel moving forward, change something, where would you start, do you think? What advice would you give them?
I say, going back to tribe, I'd say just use that tribal instinct. Work with other collaborators and interesting people to give you that confidence to make change and be different. I think it's really exciting to do something different. It's scary, so you do need that community around you to say, go on, give it a go. But and again, that's safety to make a mistake. So I think as simple as that, and carry on using kindness as a currency for good. I think that's as good at advice as I can give, really. But yeah,
very good. I seem to have gone. I've gone, so that must be the time to wrap up the conversation. So
soft focus, good way to end an interview.
Thanks very much, John. Cheers.
Brilliant. Thanks, Murph.